Hi, Lorna. It's great to have you back on the podcast again. And actually, the new format with a Skater First podcast. How have you been?
I'm fine, thank you. Very well, and all the better for seeing you again, Adam.
Oh, it's amazing. It's amazing to see you. So, what we're going to do, because I know you like to talk a lot, we're going to get straight into the questions because I've spent some time and I've put some really good questions together. You're looking at me like, me? Talk? Me? Never. Never. So, we'll get into the first question, okay? So, you've often said skating is a form of dance. How did that take root for you? And what's the difference between skating as dance versus simply skating to music?
Well, the difference between skating and dancing, first of all, skaters move through space and at varying speeds. And if you could see a light tracing of that person, because we have energy, we're electrical beings, you would see all kinds of different patterns, wouldn't you? Because they're moving around on the ice in all different directions, and also skaters cut. If you're on clean ice, they cut beautiful shapes on the ice as well, and and that's all of these things like moving through space, creating shapes, and cutting into the ice. That's all apart from the actual um, choreography itself, which is you know movement, expression, interpretation of music, um, all of those things combined. So dance is on a, is a wonderful thing, and it's been a huge inspiration to me, and I've learned a great deal from it and the choreographers that I've worked with, especially in John Curry's show. um, but yeah, so it's skating's magical, really is. It's a lot of dance movement because that's what dance is, but it's in a different format.
That's great. So, as I said before, we're going to go straight into each question. So, I'll ask a question, you're going to give the answer, and then we're going to kind of stay on topic. Okay, so we're going to go straight into the second question. When you first hear a new piece of music, what happens in your mind? Are you visualizing shapes, emotions,
um,
stories before you ever
that
touch the ice?
when I hear music, it's almost like the music becomes me and I become the music. So the vibrations go through me, and um, it's it's amazing how the music can create movement in the body, and but that's what happens. And I often imagine like I'm seeing myself on a blank, like black, on the ice skating, but everything else is black except me. And I see the movement coming through. I don't think about it. It's just instinctive, really.
Hmm. Almost like a paintbrush on a blank canvas, and it's just moves through space.
Well, I see the whole thing like a real, like it's a real thing, like um, a real video of me moving in space to the music, and I create different um, different combinations of edges and movements together because I love using a lot of body movements. It's body language, isn't it?
Yeah. Okay, so next question. So every program starts with a blank sheet of ice. How do you blend a skater's natural style and personality with your own creative vision for the piece?
Um, I tune in with the person as much as possible. And my aim is to create something for them they've never had before. I try to bring out their personality, their energy, their feeling, and I experiment when I first start the choreography, and to find the way that their body moves, because everybody's body it moves differently.
Yeah.
Some people are more flexible and it could be they're more flexible in their back or their legs or their shoulders. It can be a lot of things that's different about that person. So you are really looking deeply into that person and trying to find out ways they move, what looks good on them, what shape and form, because a lot of what I do is about it's like sculpture. You're sculpting the person. You're making their body move in a certain way, whatever that might be. It's hard to actually put it into words, but basically, Mm.
Yeah, but no, that's great. So next question. We're doing great here, aren't we?
Yeah.
So what is so focused on technical scores and jumps? How do you make sure the choreography and artistry don't get lost in the world of numbers?
Okay. When you're choreographing for a competitive skater, it's different from someone who is going to be performing in a gala or in an ice show. And for me, it's important that the beginning of the program creates visual impact and gets the attention of the judges above everyone else, but also you got to involve the audience. So you stage that program so that they get the best angles, the best impression, really. And so the beginning of the program, you're making a statement about who you are, and the choreographer helps when they choreograph to make that happen. And then obviously you have technical elements. So you have to concentrate on them, and you try to use a feeling from that beginning. Like it could be something from the arms, or it's as you're skating around, you might use some arm movements going into a jump or a position to try to make it a little bit more original from just doing a preparation. So, and also there's a lot now about exits from spins, and there's always been creative entrances into jumps. Like you might be, for a simple example, doing an Ina Bauer, and then you go from the Ina Bauer directly into a double axel or something.
Yeah.
But the middle of the program, again, create visual impact. So you have the beginning, the middle, and the end, and that keeps everybody's attention about the actual creative side. Whatever your theme is in that program, you have to keep it alive through the program. But you can't, in a competition, your brain is concentrating on your jumps, your directions, your rhythm, everything. Most of the time, I tell people to be in the moment and not to get lost, because sometimes the choreography can be disturbing if it's in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Yeah.
So you have to have the choreography in between, if you like. So part of the program is actually design, and it's setting, because some choreographers will set the program. I can't do this, like set it and then choreograph it. It doesn't work that way. For me, it happens like little by little by little by little. But yeah, the beginning, the middle, and the end are vital places in the program to concentrate on choreography. And by that, I don't mean spirals. I don't mean spread eagles or Ina Bauers. Those are things that have been done over and over again for 100 years. So what I'm trying to do is be original. That's what I've always I don't want to do what other people have done, and I want to make a meaning to this. I want to create energy through it. So, it's easier when you're creating for a performance in a show than in a competition, but you can definitely create, when I see some skaters out there, I think, oh God, I wish I could have had my hands on that, obviously not going to mention any names about skaters, but you know, I hate seeing emptiness in a program. I like to see there's something going on all the way through from the beginning to the end.
No, that's great, and I actually feel like I learned quite a lot just listening to you there, and especially talking about the beginning, the middle, and the end. This is everything in life. This is
It
everything
is. You
that
know
needs.
what? I read that in a brain book.
Yeah,
I read. I used to read quite a lot about. I'm very, very actually, as well as being an autistic person, I'm actually very scientific. I love science,
yeah,
and yeah, actually, at some point, I would like to read some poetry that I wrote, because I write poetry as well as choreographing, and I paint, I knit, I make jewelry, I do all kinds of other things, but not all the time. You know, choreography is my
yeah.
most, because it's alive. You know, we're living beings. We're moving works of art. When, you know, I love all different types of art, but I get like inspiration from things like this flower, like the colors, the beauty of nature inspires me a great deal.
No,
So
that's,
let me
that's
know when I
great.
read you the poem.
Yeah, well, we can. Well, maybe a couple more questions, then we can read one of your poems. How about that?
Okay. And
Yeah.
that kind of like shows more about me as a person. Yeah.
Okay. So let's move on to the next question. So, for anyone who's never experienced skate of the art seminars, what are they really about? And how do they help skaters unlock their creative side?
Well, usually when I do some workshops, I I get people together and try to make them feel fully aware of themselves and lose all inhibitions about, like, sometimes we stand in a circle and I ask everybody to introduce themselves through body language. And it's amazing, even some experienced skaters don't know what to do. And there's music playing. So, you know, it's really interesting to see how they want to express themselves about who they are. Because I say, you make a statement about who you are. Mikhail Baryshnikov said, dance for me and I'll tell you who you are, which is
Interesting.
same sort of thing. It's like, there's so many traits to us. There's the way we speak, the way we dress, you know, and the way we move, the way we do things. We're very complex beings, humans. But I would go from that initial introduction, and I would start off with some of the typical things that a lot of coaches and choreographers do with edges, but I will do it with an accent, with a different approach. So you might be doing like an just because this is I can't demonstrate right now. So you might be doing just a simple edge, but I will do it with an angle or something with the hand. I'll bring something into it that's a little bit more than just an edge. It's much more than that. You can turn a simple pivot into a very low position with
Yeah.
an arm movement or a head movement, or you can change every simple thing into something much more meaningful and appealing to the eye, like we were talking about visual impact before. So I would teach them or help to improve their movement, and together with edges, together with turns, but teach them how to contract, how to feel that the energy that they're pushing out and what they're pulling in. It's complex.
That's interesting. Maybe I'll hopefully get to come to one day, and you can try and see what you can do with me.
Yeah, I would love to.
I don't know what I would
Great.
do to introduce myself. I was sitting here thinking, I'm like, what would I do? And I don't know. I think you just have to put some music on and you just see what happens.
Yeah,
You
that
know?
can happen. That can
Yeah.
happen. Yeah. Um,
Interesting. Interesting.
mm.
Okay, so let's go to the next question. So, you were part of John Curry's Theatre of Skating, which was revolutionary. What was that experience like, and what did you learn from working with someone who treated skating as pure art?
Well, as most people know, I actually trained with John when we were very young. And eventually he went off to America and I went back to my original coach, Robertus van Zeebroek, who was amazing. We were both with a coach called Armin Perrin, and we would talk about the art of skating and how wonderful it would be to produce a show which was in the same form as a dance show, like in a theatre, so the ice would be on the stage. Well, all of that came to life when he won the Olympics, and that's why he fought so hard for so many years, because he was actually 27 when he won the Olympics. So he persevered through all the rules and regulations, and the failures. When he didn't skate well, he did everything he could to better his performance and to achieve what he really wanted to do. Was originally wanted to be a ballet dancer, and his father wouldn't allow it. Anyway, the shows were incredible because we worked with people like Robert Cohen from the Martha Graham Company. He was an original member. We had Jean-Pierre Bonfou, that was in New York. We had Norman Maine, who created a jazz piece, and he created the L'après-midi d'une faune. We had incredible people. I mean, there's a list, which,
Yeah.
go on and on. But a lot of people who influenced me tremendously, because whenever we worked with a choreographer, we had to study their style. So we would be in the dance studio doing a class with them, how they teach movement. So in the beginning, I found it really difficult to be choreographed for, because of me being a creative person myself. It was hard for somebody to tell me what to do. And as time went on, I realized, how much I was learning from these people. It was a really great time and to grow. And to this day, I value that so much. And after working with Robert Cohen, his contemporary, he was a contemporary dancer with Martha Graham, and he choreographed some of the most incredible shows. And I went to as many as I could when I was in England. But the piece that he choreographed for John Curry's company was called Mask of Separation. And it was reconstructed to become on the ice. And it was so different and so original that the critics said that it was like an acid trip and that the skating audience wasn't ready for it. So we had to break it down into small pieces, instead of this whole dance, this mask of separation. So we did it, but we did it in a different way. We're all painted, unitards. Everybody was different.
Yeah.
The movements were very original, lots of contractions and very exciting. And funnily enough, Robert Cohen thought that I was a trained contemporary dancer, but I wasn't at that point a contemporary. I was ballet trained, tap trained, modern stage, jazz, all of that, but not in contemporary. But it was, for me, it was natural, that kind of movement, the contractions, the flow, the movements that sometimes can feel ugly, but they're actually beautiful. So, yeah.
Yeah, I was the same. I was a dancer for 10 years from 3 till 13, but I never did contemporary. And I feel like that's actually something that I should have done. That probably would have really helped a lot. It would have helped a lot more than tap dancing for skating, that's for sure. even though I can tap dance, but I've never used that. But contemporary, that would have been really good. Maybe,
Yeah.
maybe they didn't have it at my dance school when I was a small kid. I don't know. I don't remember anything like that.
Hmm.
Oh well. So, who have been your biggest artistic influences, whether from skating, dance, or other art forms?
There's so much in the world of dance. I look at every single day. I see the amazing pas de deux, the couples, and these incredible movements they do, like entwining from one position to another into another. I have worked with mostly with soloists, but I worked with a couple. If I can talk about a few pieces that I've choreographed, one of them is called Sacrosanct, and I I painted the costumes and the unitards to look like uh, trees, because the whole concept was about um, trees in the rainforest that are being destroyed through man, through cutting down the rainforest to plant. It's another subject that I probably won't go into, but it's destruction.
Yeah,
And the trees, I believe that, and in fact, I don't just believe, I know they communicate under the ground. There's all over the world. There's mushrooms communicating under the ground with this incredible energy, and trees can actually warn each other. When a tree is being, say, cut down, it's somehow under the ground. The scientific experiments, they've discovered all of this kind of thing. It's not, imagined. So this piece was all about saving each other and protecting each other, and it was a beautiful, beautiful piece. And the skaters, Ksenia Ponomarova and Colin Brubaker, portrayed my choreography with such beauty and respect, and so eager to please me, to try the positions I was doing that was sometimes very difficult, but they mastered these things,
yeah,
and it's something that I value, and hopefully they'll perform it again. And I choreographed a piece for Liz Yoshiko Schmidt, When Atoms Embrace,
yeah,
and that became pretty iconic at the time. It's a few years ago now, but it's still being performed from time to time. And Liz was beautiful to work with. She allowed me to do my thing. She allowed me. She didn't ever question, like, oh, that feels bad, or I don't like that. She never did. She always was very open to trying to portray what I wanted to choreograph. And I worked with Daniel Berdnikov, a piece called Language of the Soul, which was, again, a very beautiful experience. For me, the most beautiful thing is the making of the piece. And then, of
yeah,
course, when you see it performed, and I always want to be there every time they perform things, because it's slightly different. Not different, they're not trying to be different, but every show is slightly different. Even if you did it every day, there would be some tiny little thing that will be slightly different. And it's because it's a living art. And Danielle was wonderful to work with as well. And Beata Handra was the first piece I did actually for ICA of New York. I'm so grateful for having me perform, for my skaters to perform all of these pieces with them. Beata Handra, she was an Olympic ice dancer, and she wanted to do a solo. And so I said, go for it, and so I went up to San Francisco, and we worked intensively for a week on and off the ice. And she ended up wearing a costume I already had, which was also very creative and painted, airbrushed, which I love, because I love to see the whole body moving as a part of the whole piece. And then the other recent pieces that I've done are with Sarah Beji, and she's recently performing a piece about Modigliani. It's the music from the film. about Modigliani's life, and he was a famous painter. Everything he painted was, all the women had long necks, and his life was very troubled because he was married, and had a very troublesome existence because, unlike Picasso, who was in the same era, Picasso was very wealthy and Modigliani was poor, and so he suffered a lot with alcoholism. And I think his wife, I'm not quite sure, I'd have to check, but she died, and there was a lot of suffering. And even though suffering is not always what, not everything has to be about suffering, but it can bring out tremendous expression and feeling because it's an extreme emotion. And so the piece portrays that emotion, and Sarah does it very beautifully.
No, you're very lucky to have some great artists to work with in recent times. From what I've seen, because I have seen most of the pieces, and they're really, really good. So you should be very proud.
Yeah, the one thing I didn't forget, but a very beautiful piece which has just been performed, it was performed at the Dick Burton Festival, was Timelessness. Liz and Danil skated together, and it was very challenging for me because they not like Ksenia and Colin had skated together many times, but Liz and Danil had never had a piece choreographed for them, and it's absolutely, they are absolutely beautiful, and they have taken every detail, because I'm very detailed, as well as wanting free, beautiful movement. It's in a way, it's not messy, it's very constructed, it's very detailed, and right down to the last, head movement, finger angle of the body, and shapes together, like the things they do make forms, there's hundreds of photographs that I've screenshot of their performances. That's so beautiful. Called it Timelessness because I think that art, is the expression of life, the artist's life, and it never really dies. I mean, skating programs and competition, that's very dated, when you look back to the old performers, with the exception of some, there's very few skaters like Belita, who was very beautiful and I think very iconic. Have you ever seen Belita skate?
I don't think I have, no.
Well, she's like a ballet dancer on the ice, and she's incredible performer in those days. Yeah.
Thanks for watching. That was the end of part 1. Click the link in the description